Hello and welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for a new episode of Anewgo of New Home Sales. I'm your host, Anya Chrisanthon, and joining me today is Jeremiah Gore with Crossroads Coaching and Impact 88. Jeremiah, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So, Jeremiah, you've had a long career in home building industry, and I know you've done just about everything except for mortgage.
That's
So,
right.
tell us about that journey and how did you get started in home building industry?
Oh, yeah. So, what was it, 25 years ago? I came out of graduate school and went straight to work for Toll Brothers. And in that journey, I've been on the sales side, been on the operations side, been on the land side, land acquisition, land development, worked my way up to a division president level at one point. And then along came an opportunity to get on this side of the fence where I became a speaker and a trainer on sales training and on customer experience training. And I thought, you know what, let's make a go of that. And I haven't turned back since. It's been a crazy, like, last 3, 4 years journey. So overall, 25 years to get to where I'm at. But I think it makes for a unique perspective when I walk into a room because most people that are
Mhm.
sitting in the room, I've held their job or I've managed their department at some point in my career. And I think that makes it for a unique perspective in the room.
For sure. So, and I know you're really known when it comes to training that you concentrate on customer experience. So, speaking of customer experience, is there a particular step in the customer journey that you feel like most builders keep making mistakes, and why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think one, probably not identifying that customer journey from first touch point from the marketing
Mhm.
angle all the way through, if they have an online sales department, through the sales journey, every one of those touch points of anyone as a part of that sales, so it's mortgage or a design, through construction. I think one, not identifying that, and then two, each one of those handoff moments is where
Mhm.
we see most companies drop the ball, where the customer kind of gets left behind and process wins over people. And that's where we want to flip that around and kind of say, hey, we need to put people back in front of that process at times because they're getting lost in the journey.
Mhm. So, absolutely right. Anytime there's a handoff, specifically, I think when sales tends to hand off to construction, there's always that area of like customers are not really hearing from anyone for a while the permits are being done or whatever's happening. And it's like salespeople are on to the next. Meanwhile, the production guys haven't picked it up yet. So it can make for an unpleasant experience, especially right after they just sign all that paperwork with all the big numbers and everything. So what does it look like for a successful handoff from sales to construction?
Yeah. Well, first, to look at a good example, look at a bad example. My daughter and I, we love roller coasters. Like, it
Yep.
is like we go on a trip every year, and she's up over 320, I think 325 coasters ridden somewhere around in there. And one of the things you think about a roller coaster is, the big drop. You have
Mhm.
the big chain hill, and then you have the big drop there. And that's great for coasters. It's a lot of fun, not a lot of fun for the customer journey. And so when you see these journeys mapped out or graphed out, and you see this customer, the momentum that is going when they sign that contract, there is the highest emotion that they have right there when they sign that contract. And then what do? We kind of forget about them for most builders. The average across the country is around 45 to 65 days where they've signed the contract from there to like a pre-construction meeting. And it's in a lot of companies' processes that they don't reach out to them until it's time to do a pre-construction meeting. And you're like, that's 60 days go by where they haven't heard anything from you as a home building company. And what happens is that momentum that was started here falls and plummets to the ground. And now they show up for a pre-construction meeting. All that's gone. Like Stephen Covey, right, would say that emotional bank account's been emptied now.
Yep.
And now we're starting back down here at the bottom. And to
Yeah.
elevate from there when you've stopped, it's gonna be a very difficult task when we could have just ridden the momentum that was already started from the sales side.
Mhm. So, what do you recommend in this case? As an ex salesperson, to this day, I still remember this one particular customer that we promised her a home to be built in X amount of time. as a salesperson, you're always being pushed to like, oh, if somebody needs it sooner, you're like, yeah, maybe we could do it. But I remember with her, I set proper expectations that I was like, okay, that's how long it's going to take. She was perfectly good with it. And then that period happened where we're not meeting, not doing anything before construction. And then during pre-construction meeting, I still remember she was so mad at me because her house was being delayed because we haven't started it. Where I was like, nothing is being delayed. We're on
Right.
track. Like
We're
this is
actually ahead of schedule.
yeah, like we're good. So I just remember this meeting like so embedded in my mind because I remember how mad she was, and I'm thinking back like, gosh, I could have done so many things differently. But for those who maybe haven't gone through that experience recently, or maybe they're going through this experience not realizing that's what customers actually doing, what do you recommend? Like, what should actually happen during that time?
Yeah, a couple things come to mind. First, getting alignment across all departments so
Mhm.
that marketing's not selling a message that we don't actually deliver as a company. You know, if you're bragging about being a luxury home builder, but then you don't even have water in your model home for them to drink when they're walking through your model, is that really luxury? So first, I would say alignment across the departments, making sure we have a unified message and that it's all cohesive. And then
Mhm.
the second was get your handoff processes in order,
Mhm.
identify what those are, and then practice them. Not practice on your customer, practice them in real time. And then the other thing, it's like a little thing, but it's changing your mindset around we're a home building company or we build homes. That's what we do. We're a sales company. And I would argue it's not even that we sell homes anymore, we sell experiences. Between city regulations and what you're able to do on any given lot size, they're very similar in what we do architecturally anymore in a lot of these subdivisions. There's small nuances, but for the large part, a 3,500 square foot home that's a 4 bedroom, 3.5 bath is going to be built very similarly from builder to builder. But the experience is completely different. And that's where I think we miss it. I think if we will adopt as a culture that our job is to sell the experience, that's when we start to elevate. And one thing I do in all the training with the builders that I get a chance to be in front of is I ask that their building staff find a way to go introduce themselves when the salesperson is writing the agreement. Because which would you rather? Would you rather be a part of the highest emotional moment for that buyer or wait 60 days after and now you're meeting them possibly in one of the worst moments in terms of anxiety or in terms of just feeling like they've been neglected for the last several weeks? Would you
Yeah.
rather meet them then for the first time?
Yeah.
Obviously, the obvious answer is you'd rather meet them there. And you just call it like, it's a quick, I'm on my way to another meeting, but I wanted to stop in and introduce myself. Because for an engineer mind or an analytical mind, a chance to meet the person that's going to build your home
Mhm.
is a great way to help close the deal, especially if that salesperson and the builder are working in tandem. It's a fantastic way to elevate that experience, but also
Mhm.
now you're introducing that next person that'll be in the handoff,
Mhm.
alleviating some of that anxiety, and therefore what we see a lot of the times is that level of that experience and that pre-construction meeting now is heightened.
Yeah, I love that. So you guys, anytime you have a chance for that handoff and you have a person right there sitting in a model home, so even with mortgage people, oftentimes they're come and hang out in your model home. If you have a chance to introduce them, same deal. So great tip there. And so speaking of project managers, so Jeremiah, they obviously spend probably more time with our customers than salespeople. Yet we rarely hear about project managers getting any sort of training when it comes to customer experience. So why is
It's amazing. I get told a lot, well, we've never needed it before. And I'm like,
that?
okay,
because
that's really not.
project managers are so known for being so emotionally intelligent, right?
Mhm. Yes. Yeah. The strength of your construction staff is empathy, right? Like
Yes.
when you ask them, do you know Brene Brown? And they're like, who? Like they think it's an accent trim paint color. And you're like, no, it's like the leader of this concept. But I think it is amazing when you walk in because the number one pushback I get on the building side is, well, our guys don't need it. They
Mhm.
won't want to be out of the field for that long. We can't afford to do that from a time perspective. And
Mhm.
and so far, we've had 100% retention on any company that has gone through one level of training to say we want more of this. because they realize we've been spending a lot of money and a lot of time with our sales team elevating their abilities,
Mm-hmm.
developing their skill set. And then
Yep.
what do? We, like to your point, they spend more time with the building staff and we don't train them. Like we make them go
Right.
through OSHA training, which is generally awful and boring. And then they have to go through other corporate training, which is, not the most exciting. And we're not developing their skills really. Like we might teach them how to build a home, but we're not teaching
Mm-hmm.
them how to communicate.
Right.
And one of my favorite things that I get is I'll get an email from somebody that we train the person, not the position, right? And in doing that, it's transformative training. So you're transforming the individual, not necessarily in their role, but them as a person. And you'll get these emails that say, "Hey, I just want to thank you. My relationship with my teenage daughter's never been better. I want to thank you. My marriage is stronger. I want to thank you. The communication with me and my salesperson is best it's ever been." Like those are amazing testimonies to get back because it just further shows a lot of these guys and girls that are
Yeah.
builders. They have this
Yeah.
personality that's, it's a driven personality.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like any good builder, they work with the tools they're given. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, for so many years in home building, we just haven't given that side of our industry a lot of attention and effort when it comes to building their skills.
100% agree with you. And speaking of communication skills, we know that they speak their own language. If you've ever spoken with a home builder, they throw the jargon, the words. As a salesperson, hopefully you understand what they're talking about, but oftentimes customers are just not used to that. So how do we bridge that gap, even in communication, how they're using their words, what they're saying to our customers?
Well, one, I think it's talking with the builders, letting them know, hey, one, builder speak, you've got to have
Yeah,
your own translator, right? Like
right,
all the acronyms. We do the same thing with salespeople. Like
right.
they'll use so many acronyms that when you talk to a customer, they have no idea what you're talking about.
Hmm.
And so it's using the right words. And sometimes for the building side, they don't even know that they're doing it because no one's ever said, "Hey, stop doing that." Right? Like
Right.
it's that simple. And so I think it's just identifying that they're doing it, one, and then two, giving them alternative language to use
Hmm.
so that they can take advantage of that. But again, most of the time, their managers were never trained in any of this either. So they're focused on how to build a home,
Hmm.
not why they're building that home. So if our salespeople do a good job of getting the why behind their story, and if
Yeah.
they then do a good job handing off that why, our builders, for the most part, we don't see them that they're equipped to really do anything with that story. So
Right.
yeah, that's what we want to push them for.
Yeah. Yeah. Get on the same page, speak the same language with the customer. That definitely will make a world of difference. Now, Jeremiah, since you work with so many project managers, do you see that one common thing that they maybe do or say to customers that kind of like instantly erodes customer trust without them maybe realizing that they're doing that?
Well, it goes back to the story. If they don't know the buyer story of why they're
Mm-hmm.
buying, there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of bear traps that they can step in at that point. The other
Mm-hmm.
thing that we talk about, and I do this on the sales side too, I just talked with a group this morning about connecting personalities to your presentations.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's sales or construction, it doesn't matter. You could use whoever's formula or whoever's framework, but if you're not altering that presentation a little bit to
Mm-hmm.
fit the personality of the person in front of you, you have the opportunity, statistically speaking, about a 67% chance of missing that communication because you're
Yeah.
talking to the wrong personality type,
Yeah.
regardless of your sales process or regardless of your talking points that you're going to cover in a pre construction meeting. If you're not connecting to that customer in the way they want to be communicated with, there's a likelihood that you're going to miscommunicate or they're going to take it the wrong way.
Oh, absolutely. I've seen way too many times that that has happened for sure. Now, Jeremiah, the customer experience in home building is particularly long, right? We're talking anywhere from 6 to 12 months or even longer if it's a custom built home. And we know that that roller coaster, it's definitely there. We've seen those maps kind of up and down, as you said. So, how do you really keep your buyer emotionally engaged in this process that you can try to minimize those downsides of the customer journey?
Yeah, go back to the Covey emotional jar. I think when we get a chance to fill that emotional jar, we want to do that. And I
Hmm.
think you guys do a great job of that on the front end. But how do we maintain that? The fact that there's companies not utilizing technology to assist them in this effort, and I understand the limitations on adopting it because it's a lot of effort to take on new technology. But once it's in place, that tech can help you scale that customer experience in a way that without it would be rather difficult. And people will push back against it. I think of guys like Novi Home or my friends over at Foundation, where they take that experience and they elevate it and they give you a system to be able to easily do that.
Hmm.
I just wish more companies would at least explore those options because it's the constant communication with our customer. They want to feel a part of it. They want to feel like you haven't forgotten about them. And if
Hmm.
you have this technology that will help you do that, why wouldn't you take advantage of it? But constant communication with our customers, setting proper expectations and then achieving them, and proactive communication, reactive communication. So if you reply to a question, zero credit. That's the
Yep.
minimum level. That's just basically, hey, you showed up and you brought food to my table. But if you want credit for your communication, it has to be proactive. So you see a window broken. When I was coming up in the business, you were like, don't say anything unless they say something about it, right? Maybe they won't see it. Well, we all know that buyers are going to see it. So
Right.
better to say something about it beforehand so
Hmm.
that they know that you have it taken care of than waiting for them to say something and being responsive. So proactive
Yeah.
communication, use technology to make that much easier and faster and easy
Hmm.
and ultimately the customer wins if you can do those things.
Yes. So if you think about that customer journey specifically during construction time frame, can you help us identify maybe some of the milestones that are great opportunities for project managers to communicate with customers, and maybe like what could they do that's outside the box, that's outside the norms that you typically hear?
Yeah. So at Crossroads, we call it moments that matter,
Hmm.
or in milestones that matter, because there's these touch points along the way, and some home builders or their companies are avoiding these because they're afraid of what might happen. But I would argue that what might happen if you don't have them, and one of those is a pre-construction meeting, and
Hmm.
it could be a meet the builder meeting. Let's say it's an inventory home that's already under construction. Well, you're not going to have a pre-construction meeting on an inventory home that's at drywall, but you could have a meet the builder meeting because you still
Hmm.
have to set expectations about when they should come and visit the home, what your process is for any kind of concerns or questions. So I would still say a
Hmm.
meet the builder meeting is integral to doing our job well. And
Hmm.
then if it's a build job, then having a midpoint, so pre-drywall meeting with the customer, and for that example, that would be one where you tell them, hey, take a marker for the customer to write on the walls.
Hmm.
If they're faith driven, they're going to write a scripture on the wall, or maybe they have a quote from some author or Eminem, right? Whatever, and they're going to write on the walls of their house. It connects them to their home in a way that without that it wouldn't have happened. We did a like Bluebell Big Ice Cream here in Texas, right? And we had a customer that they bought a lot, amazing view off the back patio, and that's why they bought this home. So as soon
Hmm.
as we had the foundation placed, before the framers got started, so right there in that curing stage, we set out two chairs and a Yeti cooler of some ice cream and invited them out to come have their first ice cream on their
Aw,
back patio, right?
that's
Like
awesome.
again, that's a connection that those people will always have with that home and with us as
Mhm.
a home building company. So there's these things that you can do, little things that don't cost any money,
Right.
and you just find a way each one of these moments. And a lot of times home builders, they want to do the right thing, good intentions, bad execution. So they'll
Mhm.
try to do it where it's like, okay, we found this like this one thing and we're just going to give everybody this one thing. Like we're going to put our name on a blanket, right? Home
Mhm.
building, that's cool and that's great, but the personalization's gone.
Mhm.
And so it goes back to if you know your customer well enough, they're going to show you how to sell a home. But if you know your customer well enough, they'll show you what small little thing you could do. If they're dog owners, being able to just get a couple of dog bowls with their dog's name on it, it's fractions of what that blanket
Right.
costs, but way more personal to those customers. And so it's those little things along the way where you
Mhm.
connect their story to what it is that you're doing that's above and beyond just doing the building the home.
Yes, I love that. And again, to your point, it doesn't have to be expensive, right? A bowl of ice cream it doesn't cost very much money.
Right.
Yeah. especially if you can find a way maybe to tie some of your local vendors into that,
Oh, for
even
sure.
better.
Oh, yeah.
So building a home is almost synonymous with delay, right? You think about building a home, there's probably going to be delay. So do you have a best practice for how should project managers communicate to the consumer when there are delays so that it doesn't completely erode their faith in this builder?
Yeah. One, so first thing we do in our foundational course that we have with the building side of the business or any
Mm-hmm.
customer facing employee is we talk from a framework of DISC. And that's only because we all communicate differently. And there's four primary ways that we communicate, and DISC does a great job of identifying those. So first, we try to give a foundational understanding of that to
Mm-hmm.
everybody that goes through our training. And so we use that first as okay, so when that comes to us that, hey, we're getting delayed, one,
Mm-hmm.
let's be proactive in that communication. As soon as we know there's a delay, let's be proactive in saying there's going to be one. But then two, knowing their personality type of the best way to communicate that to them. If you know DISC personalities, if it's a driven personality, you're going to want to tell them that quickly and you're going to want to give them the details, not as much as a C, an analytical would want. They're going to want all the details. And no matter how
Mm-hmm.
many details you give them, they're still going to have more questions and not being frustrated when they do. Someone like me, it's an high I. I don't really need to know the details. I'm paying for you to build my home for
Mm-hmm.
me. So I
Mm-hmm.
just need to know, okay, there's been a delay, but you have it under control. Cool. What's the result to me? What are we talking about? And so it just depends on their personality is the best way to approach it. Number one, proactive. Two, try to aim your message to the target
Mm-hmm.
based on their personality profile. And then three, spend some time on the backside trying to catch that home back up on its schedule, but never promising that you will. Again, you said it early. It's a matter of setting the proper expectations. There will likely be a delay at some point in your home. We
Yeah.
put that in our schedule.
Yeah.
So even if we get a little bit of ahead, right? Sometimes we're able to do that, but sometimes we'll hit weather, we'll hit a supplier delay, a vendor delay, and those things happen. If you set the
Yeah.
proper expectations up front, when they happen, you can call back to that moment and say, remember when I said there probably would be a delay at some point, and we take that
Mm-hmm.
into account in our schedules. Unfortunately, we're at that moment, Anya. We've hit a little snag here, but here's what I can tell you. And then what I would say is based on your personality, I would then target that message specifically for you as to
Mm-hmm.
how I would approach that delay.
Yeah, I still remember to this day, there was the opposite of delay. We actually built a house early and somebody was upset
Oh yeah.
about that.
Yeah,
So
because
it's
you're
like,
like, "Hey,
oh
we'll
gosh.
get you we'll get you in January, February," right? This happened a lot for us when I was working for a production builder. We'd sell them a home, be like, "January, February," like, "Okay, great." And then you'd build that home would just be built. Like it was one of those homes that just got built so fast for no
Yep,
reason that it just did. And then the home's ready in early December.
yep,
And you're like, we need you to close in December, right? Because you know the pressure of those builders
right,
where calendar year is the fiscal year.
yep,
And the buyers are like, "We're not gonna be ready. We don't wanna
right,
move during the holidays. We don't wanna close during the holidays. We gotta wait for his big bonus check to come in," right? Whatever it is.
yep.
Yeah. So it's that
Yeah.
happens too.
So it
Yeah.
goes two ways, right?
Oh,
Sometimes
for
we think
sure.
like it's great news, but it may not be necessarily. So yeah, you got to gauge
Yeah.
them. Now, Jeremiah, you referred to this a few times now. So obviously, it would be ideal if when we start the process with home buyers, they take this assessment, and then we have this picture of like, oh, you're this
Right. Yeah, that would be
perfect.
great.
I know how to communicate with you, but that's probably not realistic. So, do you have tips and tricks on how can you quickly assess somebody's personality?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I can give somebody a cheat sheet if they really want one, right? But it's if you think about the four major personalities, you have that kind of driven personality where they're the ones when they walk into your model home, they're like, I'm just going to look through real fast. Give me your price sheet, give me your floor
Mm-hmm.
plans, and I'll be out of here, right? Like just
Mm-hmm.
very quick, very rapid way of communicating. They're not waiting for you to ask a question. They're just going to start talking. The funds, you'll know when they walk in because they're having a party. I mean, they're excited to be there. They're just excited to meet you. They're excited to see this home. They start talking about holidays and they start talking about all kinds of things. And so those are generally easier to communicate with, but as long as we focus the conversation, because otherwise we'll have a great time and then they run out of time and they're like, "Oh, we got to get to the next thing." And you're like, "I just wasted 30 minutes talking about, you know, our favorite stores." So we have to be a little more conscious to keep that one moving forward. The S group, the emotionals, the relators, they just want to know that there's safety, security, they can trust you. It's as much about the neighborhood and the fit as it is about the home itself for them.
Mhm.
And then the C group, the analyticals, again, there's not enough detail in the world for them. They're going to come with 30 questions. The key is not getting frustrated with those questions, but
Mhm.
also for the sales side, it's keeping them emotionally engaged because that
Mhm.
person will so quickly go to the logic side. And now all of a sudden they're measuring builders, price per square foot because that matters, right?
Right.
Like, why don't we buy cars that way, right? What we buy price per pound or whatever. Like it's
Mhm.
just for some reason home building that became a thing, and it's like, yeah, but doesn't tell you anything. If you have a grossly inefficient home versus a maximized super efficient home in terms of their square footage and then
Right.
also in terms of the features. And so it's a matter of that C group keeping them emotionally engaged, and so providing the answers that they need, but then emotionally why that matters. And so it's
Yeah.
just a matter of identifying. So YouTube, obviously you can bring me out to come do some trading on that, but it's identifying those kind of four major groups and knowing about 35 to 40% of the US population is in the S group. So if you
Mm.
default to one or the other, it's that emotional group, that relator group, the one that just wants to connect with you enough to
Mhm.
trust you. Everybody says they're the driven group. No, it's about 2 to 10% total of the population is in that group. So just because they're jerk doesn't mean they're in that group. They could just be a jerk, right? But the faster you can start learning those a little bit in the nuances of them, the faster you can alter your communication.
Yeah, that's great. Those are great tips. And I think we've all experienced that analytical mind. I think it's like the sales worst nightmare, right? Like the engineer when they walk through the
It's
door,
so
it's like,
tough.
oh boy,
Yeah, it's so
forget
tough
it.
because they come in with 20
So
questions and
hard.
then it's like they'll ask 20 questions and then those 20 questions lead to 20 more. And
Yep.
like you're asking about what year the concrete
Yep.
year it will fully cure. And you're just like, I don't know, man.
We've all been there for sure.
Yes. Yeah. Can you explain hers ratings? And you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
long no. Here's a class.
Yeah. So, in your opinion, how much do you think that the buyer's experience during construction phase actually impacts their likelihood to give you a review, to refer somebody to you, or to even buy from you down the road?
It matters as much or more than the start. So, in psychology terms, there's a peak end theory. So, they'll remember the peak moments and they'll remember the end. So,
Mhm.
you can have a decent journey all the way through, but if they get to the end of it and you just have a
Mhm.
horrible closing, the rest of it won't matter. They'll just
Mhm.
remember how horrible the closing was, which is why some of these builders that have decent processes and decent efforts, but then they try to slam them into the closing right at the last second because they need to hit some fiscal number.
Mhm.
This is why their survey scores generally reflect it because
Right.
they're chasing the closing and not the referral.
Mhm.
Yeah, it completely matters, which is why I think more companies should spend a little bit more time focusing on their whole team and not just on their sales team. But ultimately, if the sales can create an amazing experience and get the customers to this level, our job is for everybody after that to maintain that level. And
Mhm.
and what do we need to do to get to that level? If we can do that, then our customer experience, therefore our referral rates and satisfaction scores, all of it just goes through the roof.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a part that most builders still underestimate, right?
Oh, for sure.
And therefore,
Yeah.
that's why we have this problem that a lot of them are not training their project
Yeah.
managers.
They'll all talk about having a good experience, but then when you actually ask them, what does that look like? First it starts internally to their company. It's their company culture. Like, do you actually
Mhm.
believe that? Or are you having a customer experience talk where you're like, here are 5 things we're going to do for our customer? Yeah, but if your internal culture is terrible,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter these little things you do for the customer. It's going to be felt because, again, if we can solve this customer experience side of the equation, our referral
Mhm.
rates go up, our internal morale goes up, so our
Mhm.
turnover goes down. So the ROI is through the roof with having an amazing experience. But it is amazing how many builders still focus just on discounts and hitting volume numbers.
Right. So, Jeremiah, when you walk in and you start doing work with your builder clients, how do you diagnose these gaps? Is it usually the training issue, or is it a process issue, or do you find that it's a combination of both?
It's a combination. It just depends, and
Combination.
so a lot of it is in the conversations we have with the home building companies
Mm-hmm.
before you go into training, because you don't just want to throw training out there and see if it sticks. You want to see if it's actually applicable to their team. And what we see generally, it's the builders that focus on process over people are the ones where they have great processes,
Mm-hmm.
but the people are falling through the cracks, whether it's internally or externally, and the customers just aren't getting that. I've got a builder that they're not doing a huge volume, but their processes are built for a builder that's 5 times their size. And so they're getting
Mm-hmm.
so caught up in their processes that internally their people are feeling the pain of it, and their customers are also not benefiting from that either. And so you're like, from that perspective, it's all of it, what you said. But
Yeah.
otherwise, it's elevating their internal teams to meet their external promise.
So, with the folks who are typically not client facing, like your field people, how do you get them to truly care about customer experience? Is there, I don't know, incentives? Is there like, how do you actually do it? If
Yeah,
it's
well, that's the
online.
hard part. Sometimes, the old phrase of you coach them up or coach them out. I'm not a big fan of that phrase.
Hmm.
There is a factor in sometimes you have to hire the right people. You have to hire
Right,
people that care about people.
right.
And there's ways that you can do that during the interview process to kind of weed out people that are in it for themselves when it comes to life. So first, it's hiring the right people, but then two, coaching them up in the sense that a lot of builders just don't feel it's their job. They feel
Hmm.
their job is give me a set of floor plans, get out of my way, and I'm going to build a home, that's built of high quality. And we're just not in that business anymore. And we
Hmm.
never really were. My first mentor in the business, Tom Murray, used to always harp on me that we work for sales companies. Every single person that works for this company works for a sales company. And if we have somebody on the team that doesn't agree with that philosophy, we need to question if they should stay on the team. And I'm not saying
Hmm.
you go fire everybody, but there is a mindset shift that says, hey, we are an experienced company and we're going to deliver an amazing experience. You look at Ritz Carlton and some of these companies that are known for amazing experiences. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter your role on the team. You're you're tasked with delivering an amazing experience. Look at Disney. Doesn't matter how high up the ladder you are. If you're walking through the park and you see a piece of trash, they pick it up, right? And Walt Disney was known famously for talking about how they said, how many janitors we have on our staff. And then he quoted the number of total employees that worked at Disney. He said, because any single person that walks through one of our parks that has a Disney badge on is a part of that staff to keep our parks clean. It's a mindset shift. And
Oh,
ultimately, we have to get everybody, I mean, even in purchasing, even somebody that's sitting in accounts payable has to
mm,
understand that by getting out that extra payment that might have made them stay an extra couple of minutes that day, but they got the framer paid. But now the framer that got paid on time also shows up for the next house being built rather than slow playing it. Like every
mhm,
single person on our team can impact the customer experience. And so
mhm,
it's a matter of, but it's top down. I mean, ultimately our culture is led by our leaders, and our leaders have to be fully bought in. And it is amazing to see when the leaders bought in on delivering an amazing experience, what that will do for the rest of the team.
right. And so you mentioned tech earlier in the conversation and how it can really help project managers be on top of these communication milestones, right? Like we have the tech that does it. And I assume your stance is probably similar to adoption of technology.
Oh, absolutely. Why would we not take advantage of a tool that makes this go faster? It'd be like saying, we only build our homes with hammers and nails. Why wouldn't you use a nail gun? Right?
Right,
Like that's like saying that you're not using a nail gun because I don't know why, right? Like, I'm
right.
sure everyone has adopted that technology at this point. I don't know if it's just companies are afraid of making an investment in the wrong thing,
Hmm.
or if it's a matter of, hey, implementation sounds like it's going to be hard. But what I have seen are the companies that are using these technologies are
Hmm.
benefiting from it.
Yeah,
And I'm
100%.
hearing it straight from the guys in the field because they're saying it's not as hard as I thought it would be. In fact, it's easier.
Yeah, it's probably a lot easier to take a few pictures and write a quick little thing that goes out to your customers than to make all those phone calls and explain to them what's going on.
For sure, because a picture is worth way more than that phone call. And what it does
Right.
is it doesn't eliminate phone calls, but it minimizes them.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, people just want to, one, they want to know their house is moving forward.
Mhm.
Two, major milestones.
Yep.
If I text you and say your frame is going up, what do you think happens next? They drive out to the house
Yeah.
and they see something and they don't understand it. So now they make a phone call and they're like, why is all these 2x4s on an angle throughout my whole house? Because they don't understand cross bracing and
Right.
how, so you're like, hey, those are temporary. We'll take those out. No big deal. Um, but if you had explained it with a picture, oh, by the way,
Mhm.
you'll see some of these, they're just there temporarily. Guess who doesn't get a phone call now? The
Yep.
builder. And so by spending a little more time up front on that, your communication, you'll save a lot more time in terms of the back and forth that we are traditionally known for with having these buyer phone calls in any given week. I remember sitting through some buyer phone calls that lasted 4 or 5 hours.
Mhm.
You killed your day. No wonder builders
Right.
don't want to be a part of it. No wonder salespeople don't want to be a part of it.
Right.
And so if we can streamline that, the buyers want to hear from the builders directly. They don't want to
Mhm.
play the telephone game. They don't want to play whisper down the alley and wait, go back and forth between a salesperson that has to constantly say, I don't know, let me find out. So when we're using that old methodology in terms of communication with a customer, it just doesn't work real well. So we've got to eliminate that. And I understand there's some builders that are afraid of that because they're busy enough already. I tell them all the time, it will save you time. Not in the
Yeah.
beginning because you're learning something new,
Right.
but over time, it will save you time.
But let's face it, technology's come a long way, and it's not rocket science anymore. It's most of it is very intuitive, and so if you can figure out your iPhone, you can probably figure it out. So
Yes. If you can
yeah,
take a picture and send it through your phone, you can take a picture and send it through another application. That's all you're doing
exactly.
now. These
Yep.
guys have got it set where you're just opening a different application on your phone. It's not like the old days where you had to take it on your phone, then download it to the computer, and then
Mm,
upload it into a system, and then send it from a different. It's so streamlined now. There's no
anybody
excuse,
can do it.
really. There's no
Yeah.
excuse.
All right, Jeremiah, it's time for some predictions. So, as you think about customer experience in home building industry over the next few years, what do you think is going to be happening for the next 5 years? Where do you see it going?
I think it's going to continue to increase because of technology. I think
Hmm.
as more people adopt it, as the tech guys get even better with what they're offering, I think it's going to provide a seamless experience for our customers that, I mean, if you look at home building, we're behind pretty far when it comes to what we're able to do online with our customer and for our customer. We're behind in terms of communication. I get better communication from my car dealer when my car's in the shop than a lot of these home building companies provide their customers
Yeah.
building a $2 million house.
Yep.
And so you're like, why are we this slow to adopt this technology? And it's just, we're in a slower industry when it comes to change. So,
Yeah.
but I do think the technology is at a pace now where the first iterations have gone through, and now, like you said, it's much more user friendly for the guys in the field to be able to utilize it. So I think the customer experience is going to get better. The problem is it's one of those never ending races because as soon as you elevate to this level of customer experience, then the finish line moves a little bit.
Yep.
And that's all the more reason why you can't wait to get started because you're going to be so far behind the others that I don't know how you catch up if you wait too long. So I do think customer experience on the home building side, I think it's going to continue to get better. I think you look at these sales teams that are diving back into sales training, and because COVID years, everybody thought they knew how to sell a house. And they're diving back into sales training and questioning, are you doing that because you just have always done it that way? Or are you doing that because it actually is effective? So the
Mhm.
sales experience is increasing now. So they're getting a better
Mhm.
experience on the sales side. We have to maintain that all the way through. And if we can do that, our referral rates go through the roof. And any marketing person will tell you that a referral is way cheaper to get than a stranger off the street. So
Absolutely.
yeah, the ROI is through
100%.
the roof. They got to get on board and let's elevate the experience.
Yeah.
It's actually a good thing for us too. That's the crazy part. That's a true win-win. When we
It
deliver
really
an
is.
amazing customer, and I think it's because the old days Well, elevating the experience on the customer side meant we were going to just go spend a bunch of money.
Yeah.
We're going to go buy a happy customer. And that's not how it works. It really, if you get it right, you're fixing the broken parts of your company so that
Mhm.
your morale goes up and your turnover goes down. Like you're fixing your company by focusing on the customer. So there's no negative to it. There's only positive. So for that basis, I'm going to say that it's going to trend upward.
I love it. So if somebody's listening to this and they're like, okay, we got to get the ball rolling on this, we got to get Jeremiah out to train our staff. Tell us how they can learn more about what you do and where can they connect with you personally online, where you hang out on
Yeah.
socials.
Yeah, so Instagram, LinkedIn are the two socials. They're very easy. Jeremiah Gore 1999 on Instagram, Jeremiah Gore on LinkedIn. For anything sales related, they can reach out to Impact 88. I partner with them on sales training, and anything customer experience related, construction training, they can reach out to me through Crossroads, choosecrossroads.com. So choosecrossroads.com or impact88.com.
Awesome. I will link that in the show notes to make it super easy for you guys to connect, to elevate the customer experience, and make sure your salespeople are also up to speed on this. All right. So as we wrap this up, Jeremiah, you've done pretty much every job in home building under the sun. If you had to go back to do one role forever, what would it be?
Oh, division president.
Division president? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the stress is amazing, but it's just I liked all parts of the home building industry. Early on, I was told if you want to be a division president, you either become the master of one thing and you work that ladder until a division needs that one thing to really kind of elevate that division, or you become a knower of all departments so that regardless, like you're utilitarian, you can fit really with any team and understand what each team member might be going through and go that route. And that was Toll's philosophy when I started there, and I ate that up. So when I got to that role, you could see the whole puzzle put together, and I love
Mhm.
putting puzzles together, and you can kind of see those different parts and pieces. Unfortunately, it's just when you're young, you don't know what you don't know, and so it'd be like, I wish I could take what I know now and go back and do all that again. But that job's it's just for me, it was so much fun because we had such a great team. Putting that team in place and setting us up for potential growth. And we were so successful that our division got sold. I don't
Yeah.
know, maybe too successful, but it's, yeah, that job, I think, just because, again, you get to touch all parts of the business.
Yeah, love that. All right. Well, Jeremiah, before I let you go, was there anything that I did not ask you today that you think is important for our listeners to understand, whether it's related to customer experience or anything else we did or did not talk about?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. No, you did an amazing job. I would say the only thing is, regardless of your role, if you're watching this right now, regardless of your role, you can impact the customer experience from the very beginning touch point. Is your message aligned with what you actually do as a builder, your culture, your product? Like, is it truly aligned? And do a scrub of that to make sure that it is. Your sales, do you have a sales process? There's a bunch of
Mhm.
them out there, but do you have one? Do you adhere to it? Or are you just saying that you have one from a leadership role, but the field people aren't using it? Like, really audit that
Mhm.
because no process is a bad process. A bad process is better than none. So I would say that, but your sales process should be focused on getting the customer story. And if
Mhm.
you get that right, then your sales process is doing much better than most. And then have alignment throughout the build. So connect sales to each department, to construction. Make sure you have effective handoffs and focus on the customer journey.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jeremiah. I feel like I've learned personally a lot today, so I'm sure our listeners learned a ton from you. If you guys want to continue to learn from Jeremiah, please reach out to Jeremiah Gore with Crossroads Coaching and Impact 88. Thank you so much for being on today's show. Really appreciate you. And until next time, bye.